maybe I could go to a higher level, you know? And I went, and that woman sat there and gave me Reiki and gave me a connection with my boy and validated the connection that I already had with my boy and said, "Well, you do this writing. Couldn't you write to David?"
Intergalactic beings of multi-dimensional realities. Welcome to channeling.
Wow. Yeah, the depths of what I am connects me to all others. That's beautiful. Thank you. We've just finished offering our connective prayer together, and I would like to, we're just going to start recording, if that's cool with you. I'm feeling the flow so much, Claudia, and I am so grateful to welcome Claudia in today as my guest on Welcome to Channeling. Welcome, Claudia Milligan. Welcome to Channeling.
Thank you so much, Gwen. I appreciate the time you took in choosing your guests for and the time you took with me just to figure out, you know, is this right? It was thoughtful and prayerful, and I really appreciate that.
Oh my goodness, that just gave me shivers down my spine. I love that. Thank you so much for honoring that. And of course, whoever I bring forward to share with people, to me, it's really important to feel that alignment, to feel the center of love that runs through them, to feel that we are all here together, and together we rise. Together we discover all that we are. Together we offer encouragement and sustenance. And that's what we're doing here today. That's what we're doing together today. And I am excited to invite you in, and I'll just briefly say a little bit about you, Claudia. Claudia is someone who opened to the connection between her and her son even greater after his death. And she started writing, and there's a book now out, Letters to David, that honors that connection and the depth that it gained after he died. And Claudia is here to diligently support and show people that this is possible for them too in their lives, and that we can learn, we can grow, we can become stronger even after people pass on the grave. And so, Claudia, I wanted you to just step in to your story a little bit. And I know that your story with your son, when he was alive, there were lots of ups and downs. And even with your great love for him, I love in the book how there was a point where you talk about love, and you got to acknowledge that even with the loving relationship, within that loving relationship, there was a lot of pain. You know, there were these ebbs and flows because people have choice and people go through their own struggles. And that was a part of your discovery of this. But I want you to tell me, first of all, just your story and what you're willing to share about how you started to write letters between you and him.
Thank you very much. Don't be scared, but that process started about 30 years ago when I just started doing something that didn't make any sense to me. I called it intuitive writing because I had never heard the phrase, so nobody could say that's not the way to do it, right?
Yes.
And so when David passed, my background was in accounting. I was logical. I was normal,
Mhm.
And well, it wasn't really, but I wasn't going to let you know, right? And and then 4 days after my 29-year-old son passed, I said to the ceiling, because that's just where I always thought he was, I love you, David. And I heard just as a thought immediately, but it wasn't a thought in my voice. I heard, love you too, Mom. And I thought I was losing it, of course, but
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have people in my life who had been open to different consciousness for a long time. And thank you, Shirley. And
Mhm.
Shirley said, you have to see a Reiki medium. And
Mhm.
it felt like I had been invited into the depths of hell. But I was in the depths of hell. So I
Mhm.
thought maybe I could go to a higher level, And I went, and that woman sat there and gave me Reiki and gave me a connection with my boy and validated the connection that I already had with my boy and said, well, you do this writing. Couldn't you write to David? And I didn't see why not. I
Yeah.
just, so I started 2 months after he passed, and I would write to David. The first letter was something like, hey, David, there's a bird in the backyard. Now there's two. Is that you? They're coming to me. Is that you?
Yes.
And
I remember reading that. I was like, what a cute first thought to write to your son, right?
but as with everything, we go towards evolution. We go towards going deeper, learning more. And our relationship is different now. It's deeper, it's closer. Um, I learn from him, he learns from me, which just, I didn't
Mm.
know that could happen. But
Yeah.
he would say, Mom, we're not all Shaktis on day one. And I saw him grow over time and learn and evolve. But the cool thing was I started to see myself. And after I would write to David, usually, hey, I need help with love, Mom. Then I would just write, hi, Mom, and words would just come up. And for a long time, I would argue, oh, I know him really well. I know what he would say. I know he would say that. But little bits of evidence kept floating in. He would say things that I had never thought. He disagreed with what I thought. And it just kept adding up. And finally, after a full year of writing almost every day, I pushed my chair back from my desk and I just said, this really is you, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, it took a full year. And as I was reading it, you talk about your doubting mind and your questioning mind and how you were always looking for proof. And I thought it was so amazing that you really spoke to that. For people, we're always looking for signs. And there was something that I remember he wrote talking about, they're all over. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? And I just thought, oh my gosh, this sounds so familiar to us. But for me, I thought one key ingredient for us being able to really stay connected into that sense of there is something beyond this physical body, and we can be in touch with these entities, like, is letting go of that critical mind, that critical thinking mind that is always kind of grasping.
Yeah.
And that's a part of being human. You have to admit that's a part of being human. So there can always have compassion. You can always have compassion with that and say, oh, I see. I'm wanting to grasp a hold of something. My mind is wanting to understand. But are there techniques, or I guess you could say mileposts, or or ways that you helped overcome that critical thinking that helped you to kind of be in the space where you could just simply feel that connection with him?
There were a lot, and I'm not sure I can identify a good number of ones that might appeal to you or to the people who are listening. But I remember at one point just realizing that even if this was total fakery, it brought me comfort.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know that we do what works for us, or at least what we think works for us.
Yeah.
And once I knew that this worked for me on any level, it was worth it. That's why I meditate. That's why I might exercise occasionally. It's not for something I'm after, it's because it feels like it works.
Oh, I love that. I love that answer. For me, opening into my experiences, I could say beyond the veil or beyond what this physical body, sees, it's been a kind of a feeling of coming home to know more of me and the fullness and the richness of me. And, I love how you say, if it's all wrong, it still feels great, basically, I mean, and one thing that helps me kind of bring a little comfort is that everything that I'm learning, it's not placating to all of the thinking mind's ideas. It's actually expanding me. Sometimes it's challenging me. Sometimes it's saying, look at it in a new way, right? You get to see things in a different way. Or, oh, you thought this was evil? Well, take a look at this, And so it's not something that's just giving into my ideas and helping me live in a closed world. Is actually expanding me, bringing me into more compassion with people, bringing me into more of a loving understanding. If I was going to bring something to the world, if I was going to change my attitude in any way, those are the things I would want to have happen. Those are the changes that I would want to have happen for me.
And I grew up in a religion that actually one member of the clergy told me, oh, no, you don't want to get involved in yoga. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I love to read, and I love the Bible, not as a literal kind of thing, but as a book full of lessons and stories, right?
Yeah.
And I remember this story in Luke 9, I think it's 31, when people say about mediumship.
Mm-hmm.
That piece of scripture is the story of Jesus going up the mountain with his disciples to talk to Moses and Elijah, which is all good, except that Moses and Elijah were both dead at the time, so that would make Jesus a medium, which is right? But also there's another line, by your fruits you will know them. And you talked about the compassion, the kindness, the tenderness, the losing some of my judgmentalness that have come with reaching inward,
Yeah.
One of the things David said about the pandemic was, there's a great side effect here, something like that, because we found when they can't go out, they go in.
Yeah. 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 It's amazing. And that's how I viewed the pandemic too, is that really it can, and it has, I think, offered us a great gift, and feeling the huge amounts of shifts in consciousness during and after that has been tremendous. I feel like I've been able to talk in a greater depth to people than I ever had been able to before, because people were sitting there and considering, what are these emotions? What am I feeling? What are my gifts that I've been maybe ignoring or trying to run from all of this time? And now where you sit down and where I'm with myself, and I get to be with my restlessness or whatever it is, and I'm finding, all of these things coming out of me that I wasn't being present with before, right?
Yeah.
And so it's amazing to feel that, and to feel how many people are coming forward too with their stories now. You know, people are more and more willing to just be honest and step forward and say, this has been my experience, right?
Right. I had a conversation with a friend about how frustrating it was for me when somebody did not want to be vulnerable. And they said, Claudia, nobody likes vulnerability. Whoa, because it's can be scary. I'll grant them that, but the payoff. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes I just look at the cost and that's going to keep me in my box like locked up tight. But if I look at the payoff for vulnerability is connection, right?
Yeah. Wow. I feel that's medicine for me today. I needed to hear that. Just a reminder, because sometimes, you know, it's sometimes you're stepping into the dark. Sometimes you are, you know, like, especially you talked about going to this Reiki practitioner, and it felt like really hard and really dark, but you knew that because you were so dedicated with this connection with your son, like, you knew you got to do it. And sometimes we get to do hard things. Sometimes it feels scary. And so anyone out there listening who knows kind of in the depths of themselves, they want to feel that connection. They know that they want to believe it's there, that it's like I'm being a cheerleader to you right now. And maybe Claudia and me together are being cheerleaders, or maybe Claudia and all of our guides and our, David and everyone is here cheering you on and saying, yes, there is another side to this. And you overcoming fear brings that ability to feel that connection.
Yeah, yeah. The acronym for fear that I like is false evidence appearing real. And when I'm in fear about something, it seems so true that that's going to happen if I go there. That's going to happen. And I'm not talking about going somewhere that just feels wrong. I'm not talking about that at all. But I was operating a lot of my life based on what other people thought was wrong. And I don't generally let people do that to me anymore.
Yeah.
This is my life. All of a sudden, at the tender age of 60, it became my job to move forward in my life and not yours to tell me which direction to go in.
Yeah, no, I think we're all maturing in those steps. We're on that path. Let's see. Before I came on, I talked to my guides, and they said, "Here's some good questions." So I'm going to step in and talk about it. Well, first, I wanted to talk about really the process of you writing, and what lessons have you learned, as the writing concerned. And you can be answering this in any way you want, but for some reason I just wanted to ask, are there lessons that you feel specifically that you've learned as you have gone through this process, and you written to your son and allowed his voice to come through you?
Yeah, I have a bookmark with a saying on it, and it does not say seeing is believing. It says believing is seeing. So a lot of my process was not learning how to write to my kid. It was unlearning how to think about writing to my kid. Because I had this list. These things are possible. These things are impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to start questioning that. Well, where'd you get that idea? Well, Sister Mary Frances. Okay, thank you. So that was part of it. Perseverance was a huge part of it. Sometimes the moms will say, well, I tried writing to my kid one time, and I'm just not sure that's really him. Okay.
Hmm.
Willing to try it a couple more times, maybe a couple hundred more times.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I wouldn't go learn to surf and walk away from the ocean on day one because I didn't have it nailed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful way of talking about it. How I tell people or talk to people about it is when we're opening our gifts, we get to be kind to ourselves. We get to be patient, just like you would with a little baby who's learning how to walk. You know, it
Yeah,
takes time. We're learning how to use certain muscles. We're learning about this new body, this new system of faith, of reaching out, of reaching in. You know, we're exercising these new muscles, and we're figuring out how to listen deeply. And just you being able to hear a small thought or feel a small feeling, being able to recognize it and say, bravo, look, I felt more connected today. And just even if it's a small shift, that we can be patient with ourselves
yeah.
and we can honor, like, we are making progress. I think having that kind of attitude can be really beneficial, if we can treat ourselves in that way.
And I love the analogy you used of a toddler learning to walk. I
Yeah.
mean, there are very few parents who would say, oh, for gosh sakes, you're going to fall over. You're not doing it right.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, look at what he's doing. He's never done that before. How exciting.
Exactly. And for me, I think I'm learning to be my own cheerleader in a way sometimes, because really, when we start understanding and feeling like this really is about us becoming our grandest, most beautiful selves, like, don't I want that to happen? Yes, I want that to be happening, right? And so being able to be your own cheerleader, I think, is such a neat thing to be able to develop within yourself, you
Yeah.
know?
I want to tell you a story. I spoke in a front of a large group years ago, and they loved me, and I just at first I couldn't even take it in, and then I started, okay, this is good, more, and
Mhm.
got so much love. And then they asked me to speak again in another place, and I thought I did okay, but there wasn't the adoration that I had gotten the first time,
Yeah.
and I was crushed. Somebody even said, Claudia, you got a standing O, but I didn't feel that, oh my God, you're the cat's pajamas. And I really wanted it. And I went to a friend of mine who said, I don't know. I have learned to really try to please myself and my higher power. And if anybody else likes what I do, that's just gravy, but it's not that important. It makes my life so much easier. But I found that when I really try to please me, I'm more on board with who I am.
Yeah.
And then I start gathering people around me. They just come. A teacher of mine says, you be you, and whoever needs what you have to offer will be drawn to you. So there's no more chasing. There's no more chasing.
No more chasing. I love that. It's interesting because I'm hearing you say this, and it's so interesting. I'm actually feeling, if I can be really present and like honest with everyone, since we started, has been an entity with me, and he's been really like pushy and just like really wanting me to go for it, and I love it. Um, and so part of me wants to feel out to all those who are listening, because we all have lost close people to us. And when that occurs, oftentimes there can be a feeling of just such a far distance that can happen. And And I wanted to sit here and invite everyone to be with a shift in our feeling, a shift in our sensation that can happen. Because when we feel, if we can all just sit here and take a breath, I'm just imagining and we can all feel like we've lost someone, and there's some kind of a wall. There's some kind of something between us. And it feels like I can't touch you anymore. I can't feel your body anymore. I can't hear you anymore. And then if we just take 3 simple deep breaths and allow that wall to come down, you can even visualize that wall just coming right on down. And allowing the presence of that person to be so close, like it's connected into your heart, right? This is the connection that we talk about. And as we let go of our mind and all these ideas of the separateness, we can feel this connection in the heart. Do we need all of the answers that our mind says we have to have in order to prove something? No, this connection is more real right here than that wall that we created with our minds, right? Can we feel the difference of that if we simply let it down? And I invite everyone who, if you have had someone who has gone to the other side, to feel that today as much as you can, whatever that wall is, just imagining it to come down and feel that connection into your heart. And from here, what I'm inviting Claudia to say is, what from here, this closeness to your son, how was it different than what you experienced in real life? I say real life as in quotation marks.
One thing that I'm reminded of over and over and over again is while I'm right here, while I'm on earth, while I'm in the physical, there are so many things, concerns, worries, aches, pains, comparisons, so many things in the way of love. And I still have things that are in the way of love, but my David is free of all of that. And so he and I are able to get so much closer, because what I've realized is that wall that Gwen talks about, that's my wall.
Mm-hmm.
No part of that is David. There's a Patti Smith song after punk rock, and it's called Break It Down. And so my image when we talk about breaking down that wall is both David and I on either side of the wall, picking up a hammer and just knocking it down, because it serves no purpose. There is no purpose to it.
Oh, I love that. This is so delightful for me. I love that.
Right back at you, Gwen.
Oh, I love it. Yes. I'm going to move on to a little bit more. I'm just, for a second, I'm really going to be here with this, because I really feel almost as if David wants to speak through me. It's just so emotional. I just feel this love. It's almost as if this is a way that he gets to be here with you again, right? And he can look at you across the screen, you being delightful, you sharing your voyage, you talking about the steps you've made, you being vulnerable, you sharing the things that you've learned through this process. And there's just so much that I feel from him. It's like, I'm proud of you, Mom, and I knew you could do this. There's the sensation that I'm feeling that's so strong and it's so beautiful. And I know Gwen isn't David, but I just feel like saying, Mom, I'm so proud of you and I love you too. And I knew you could do this. And this was a part of what was planned. And we knew it and we know it now, but it's taken a while. It's taken a while, right? And it's okay that it's taken a while.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. And I accept and receive that love, both from David and from you. And he has met a lot of my friends that he had never met while he was here. His explanation is, Mom, you go to a lot of those groups and I'm always with you. And the other people, their loved ones, they're always with them. And while you're jabbering on, we just talk to each other, catch up, get to know each other. I want to get to know the people that you love and their loved ones. And so often he just shows up. How'd you know it was David? I'll ask every time and they'll say, oh, I just knew.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. And it's beautiful to feel it so strongly. He's just got this beautiful heart energy. And there is a lot of, how can I say it, kinetic energy. Like, it's just really, he's really alive and flowing, and it's so beautiful. Let's see, what else do I get to share? He's happy that I did that. He thinks it's fun.
So much.
Let's see. So one thing that I wanted to ask too about is, during the process where you're almost getting to know your son even more, was there also a process of mourning that was occurring? Because it feels like there would be both happening at the same time, that you're still mourning the loss of his presence in body, but at the same time, you're getting to know him in a whole different manner.
Yeah. I think I received in more the grief. Well, why should I have grief? He's still with me.
Yeah.
But he's never going to knock on the front door. So far he hasn't, I don't know, with his great big dogs. David, you didn't even ask if you could bring them, Mom. You would have said no. I'm never going to be able to feed him lasagna.
Yeah.
There are losses. And so often I know people who are grieving have been told, move on, get over it. That's not helpful. I know they think it's helpful, but it's not helpful. The loss of someone's physical presence is huge, but the gift of their continued love and connection is beyond huge,
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. And I feel prompted to ask, what does that morning look like for you? Do you sit and you hold and you feel gratitude for those moments that you had? You talked about, feeding him lasagna, I mean, does morning include you sitting in remembrance of that and just the love you felt that you could do that for him? Or what does that look like for you?
Somewhere I heard that healing in grief meant coming to a place where thinking of your loved one meant a smile of gratitude as often as it meant a tear of loss, And my grief just looks different. I still have bad times. sixth Christmas, or maybe it was the fifth Christmas. It's hard. Uh, I thought I had this down, and but at Christmas, Christmas was ours. I was a single mom,
Mm.
and it was me and David at Christmas, and we loved it. And so I just got so mad at David, and I yelled at him loud, David, I'm so mad at you for being dead. I don't even want to talk to you, because we're talking all the time.
Yeah.
So he sort of honored that. But in the next 3 days, I got three separate phone calls from three people who had gotten a message from David that they were to deliver to me. Two of them were mediums, so okay,
Yeah.
weird, Claudia, but, and they gave me a message. But the third person was not a medium. She had never gotten a message from spirit. She had never passed on a message, and she just thought this whole thing was very weird. But David was like, okay, you're not going to talk to me. You don't want me to talk to you. You're going to hear from me anyway.
The sneaky ways that love prevails, huh?
Grief is going to look different all the time. It's going to be picking up the cards from the memorial, reading them and bawling, sitting on the couch with his ashes on my lap, and just remembering all the things that are never going to happen again. And sometimes I'll even catalog those.
Mm.
At first it was, we'll never have any new pictures. Well, people have sent me pictures that I've never seen, but also in pictures that I've taken since his passing, there used to be these little orbs, until some photographer said, oh, that's just the light of the sun hitting the.
Yeah.
So then the orbs stopped, but there would be blue washes of light across, especially the trees or the woods, because David was
Mm.
a tourist. So there were new pictures. I said there's never going to be any new memories,
Mm.
because so many times I would be doing something, saying something with someone, and have a clear, absolute, positive knowledge that David was with me.
Yeah, I feel it. He's wanting to speak through me so bad. It's so hilarious. And I'm not used to this, and it's awesome, but it's funny. Right now he's thrown out a visual, an image of you at a stream and bending over and like picking up a rock, and there's this what else is there? There's just this picture of this stream and the light shining across the water, and it's almost like this feeling of him wanting you to hear him laugh, like he's playing in the trees or something like that. And so, I'm getting all this stuff rushing through me, and it's really exciting. So any of you out there who are, you're opening in the ways that you experience yourself, maybe you're opening to mediumship, maybe you're opening in to different ways. It's so interesting to feel and connect with someone who has such a strong connection with their son, and just feel all that's coming through me at this time. And so it's exciting for me.
It's so exciting. It's always exciting when David comes through just to pop in. I've done a lot of mediumship classes, and in one particular repeating one, there were 10 mediums, so there were 10 readings given every time we had the class, and David would usually come in 3 times. 3 readings out of 10 with different evidence. So nobody knew it was David again until I told them that's David again.
That's so great. I love that. Oh, I'm going to look at my little questions here. You mentioned that he's also learning from the other side. What has he taught you about what he's learning now?
I don't know why, but a memory popped up, so I'll go with it, and hopefully David will help me. So
Mhm.
it works to answer your question.
Yeah.
But I would ask him often what he's doing. And David passed by suicide, and he said, "Right now, I'm working with some people who come in a little bit beat up, and some of those were in such a tough place that they couldn't even see the people who came to meet them in spirit."
Mm.
He said, "But they can see me.
Yeah.
The one you call God is not going to let anybody go unnoticed, go
Yeah.
on." And so David would sit with those people and tell him stories about his own misbehaviors, his own you know challenges,
Yeah.
and the new kids to spirit would just laugh because it's funny when it's somebody else who's now happy, right?
Yeah.
So I learned that David learned about how healing is not for the rank and file healers who wear a long white robe. Healing is for each one of us. And whenever any one of us runs into a person who is healing, who is hurting, we can just be there with them. Sometimes just by shutting up, which is a superpower I do not have, you know. But on one particular weekend, I went with a friend, and I was feeling very left out. I didn't know anybody, and she was off with her friends, and she came back, and I let her have it. And she just
Mm.
looked at me and she said, "Well, whose angel were you?"
Mm.
Ever since then, I've always known if I'm struggling in the room, somebody is struggling more, and walk up, "Hey, how you doing? My name's Claudia."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that easy.
Yeah. We're not alone. I I love that. So much that you just said really resonates with me, and just experiences that I've had. That just because someone passes over, it doesn't mean they feel safe, that they know how things work. And there's all kinds of spaces where we can find people that just need a loving hand, just need a little bit of a reassurance, just needs to be told it's all right. We're here in love,
Yeah.
and how to help them walk toward what will be helpful to them. And it can be that simple. It can be just a loving nudge. I love that.
And sometimes it's not even it's okay or it's going to be okay. Sometimes the most comforting thing I have ever heard has been something like, "Yeah, it blows."
Yeah,
Because you're heard by
that
someone
hurts, man.
who understands, right? And
Yeah.
the moms group that I work with, there's so many moms there who are in the same boat, and
Mhm.
when we gathered together, we're invincible.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's reminding me of recently I did what's called a rebirth breath session for myself. And I was going through that session and feeling this rebirth, and it was super intense. And the lady that was watching over me, she said, "You can say that it hurts. You can say that it's painful. It's okay to say that, you know, because it was painful. it it was painful, but it was good. And I knew the process was meant to be good, but still at the same time, it was painful. And I could say, this hurts, man."
Yeah, but I had to learn that I could say that to anybody, but sometimes it just wasn't a good idea. Sometimes people did not deserve my vulnerability, did not deserve my
Yeah.
honesty, did not deserve my pain.
Yeah.
but with the other moms, the other parents, the other
Mhm.
people who are grieving.
Yeah.
I can know what's on the table for them and what's not.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. And, it feels like you've built a slew of friendships, a slew of true heart friendships, being able to be in a group of people who can put that on the table,
Yeah.
and say, this is what I'm going through. And I just think that's so beautiful. Now what do you do? Do you offer classes on this kind of writing and this kind of connective work, or do you just share mostly from what you do?
I have done a couple classes. I intend to do more. Like Hello from Home is the name of my business, and I call it Hello from Home because I don't know. I used to think that they were, up in the ceiling or up in heaven or wherever they were. And I know they're home, and not just their home, but they're in my home. They're here with me.
Yeah.
And so I've done a couple big groups, and I guess 3 or 4 now. And I intend to do more because there was one group I did. I taught them how I write. I told them what I was doing. I shared some of what I wrote. Then I asked them to write a note to someone they love in spirit and write back. And by that, I mean, I would write, "Hi, Mom," and wait for the thoughts to come up and write them down.
Mm-hmm.
No labels, no judgments. And so they all shared about what that experience was like. And this was totally a God thing, but I said there were 25 of them. And I said, how many of you think you really connected with that person you love in spirit?
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty tentative, but about half of them raised their hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, okay, how many of you believe that all the other people in the group connected with their loved ones? And every hand went up.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes I'm real hard with my evidence. So it has to dot every I and cross every T. Why?
Yeah.
Why does it have to?
Exactly. Just back to what we were with before with the wall, it's like we get to choose whether that wall's there or not. And I'm so glad that you showed your point of view on that, because it's so important for us to recognize that. And we can make choices to simply say, I'm choosing for this wall to come down. I'm choosing for it not to be that heavy weight that's blocking me from my true gratitude of feeling oneness with all that I love.
Yeah.
It's our choice. And I'm feeling like that's so beautiful. I'll make sure, of course, everyone to have a link to you and what you're doing, Claudia, and to your book. And of course, for all those who are listening, I'm going to be offering a free meditation. No one knows what I do. It's so funny. I get on these and I'm talking, I'm interviewing people, and the people are like, oh, by the way, what do you do, Gwen? And I do many, many things. I work with my voice. I sing. I channel through my voice, and I have 2 books out. I have meditations. I have all these things. So I'll make sure to share a link where all of you folks can connect in and get a meditation, something that will help ground you. And it might even help you if you're going in to do this kind of writing, so that you feel open, so that you feel connected, and that wall is down and you can feel into that yourself. But before we leave, generally, I like to do a channeling or ask my guests to do a channeling. So my first question is, would you like to do a writing or a channeling, Claudia? Or do you feel like,
I need to do a caveat, I guess. And
yes,
I'm a recovering English major. So I mentioned that I called the writing that I did intuitive writing only because, there's an argument about what's channeling, what's trance, what's this, what's that, what's the correct way to do it, right?
Yes.
And so I don't refer to the work I do as channeling, just because I think there's probably about one definition for channeling for every two people in the world,
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I'd like to do for you is to connect with the energy that I work with.
Yes.
And when I was learning trance, I learned to connect to the highest possible healing energy. And I would sit there and I would open up and I would tell myself, I am now with the highest possible healing energy. But if you work with energy, you know that after a while you get really connected to that energy personally, And so I finally said to this energy, hey, I got to quit calling you the highest possible healing energy. That doesn't work anymore. And she responded with, how about if you think of me as the supreme healing energy and you can just call me she?
Perfect.
So if it's okay, I'll take just a minute and I want to attune to or connect with she. I'll let you know that she is still a healing energy, but she's also a connection for me for wisdom, for guidance, for love. So the first thing I want to do as I connect with her is also to connect with you, Gwen,
Yeah.
and anyone who is listening, and ask she for her healing of each of you. If you could listen and open up your hearts and your minds for whatever healing you're willing to open to, you will only receive what you're open to. I wish to remind you that only good can come to you if you open the door only to good. What you are willing to receive into your life is what will come into your life. I ask that you be a little cautious about those things you want and be patient when those things that you so want do not come right away. Perhaps the lesson for you today, it might be patience. As you might remember, as you wait for what your heart thinks it needs, often what you want changes. Sometimes the answer to the prayer is a change in you and not a change in your pocketbook or in the people in your life or in circumstances or your situation. Sometimes when those things are overwhelming to you, are too big for you, or not enough for you, it is only that you are being called to be more. And so a challenge or a problem might just be what you need to learn that you are indeed taller than you thought. Your mind is broader than you thought it. Your awareness, your love, your aptitude for healing and care is more than you ever believed. So send your spirit, your guide, your loved ones in spirit Let them know what it is that your heart cries out for. And then wait, knowing that what you need is on its way. Be open for solutions that are beyond what you thought, are beyond what you knew you needed. And accept every gift, regardless of how it looks to you in the moment. I ask too that you look back in the past at all the times when your prayers were unanswered, you thought, or when the solutions turned out to be different than you wanted or needed. You'll find so often that the change needed to be in yourself, in your heart, in your mind. And I leave you with love.
Wow. I felt that. That was so beautiful and powerful.
That's my she.
That's your she. That was so beautiful. I felt it through my whole body, and just this really deep, solid light, the solid love. It was so beautiful. And what a great reminder that sometimes really when we ask for change, the most powerful change and what really needs to happen is a change within ourselves.
Bummer, huh?
No, it's brilliant because that's what we have power over. You know, and that's what I think we're all in this art of subtle illumination of knowing these small shifts that can occur within us that bring us into our fullness, that bring us into what we truly desire. And so that was brilliant. And I thank you for reminding me of that more and remembering me of that. I guess you could say, remembering me of that. This has been so beautiful. Thank you so much, Claudia.
Thank you, Gwen. I really enjoyed being with you.
Yeah, I love it. If any of you have not checked out Claudia's book, Letters to David, I encourage you to do so. And once again, check out her website and all that she's doing. And I just leave a thanks to all of you who are listening and ask that you subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and do what you can so that these messages can spread to people so they can hear it. They can hear the love that's present and that we all can connect to. So thank you all. And until next time, own your stage and play on. Click the link below to receive your very own free soul play meditation, reboot, or soul song.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Welcome to Channeling. Till the next episode, own your stage and play on.
Hot Muffin Media.